Hello, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my presentation. Today, I'm going to present to you my dissertation idea. That is a new media strategy that some autocrats have adopted to build popularity. Today, I'm going to present a preliminary observational analysis to demonstrate this media strategy. And my finding is a smart autocrat is attentive and responsive to issues widely discussed by the public on social media. Now let's take a look at some interesting data discrepancies between the public opinion polls versus the experts' assessment on Chinese media environment. According to the World Values Survey in 2013, 60 and 85% of the Chinese respondents felt confident in the press and the government. A poll by the BBC showed that 5% of the respondents felt that the media are not free, and 77% of them felt free to discuss any issue publicly. In contrast, China was ranked to have the most unfree media freedom, according to the experts. So the key message here is that while scholars and experts evaluate the authoritarian governments that have used all the possible tools to tighten the media and suppress citizens' voices, paradoxically, citizens living there feel the opposite. So the discrepancies lead to the following puzzle. So why do people seem to display high trust in the media despite the media in the authoritarian regimes is not free? My answer to this question may lead to an even more puzzling phenomenon to explain that why do many authoritarian leaders seem to command significant popular support? So my answer is that they have been using a monitoring and responding media strategy to cultivate media trust and enlarge regime supporters. So what do we know about how autocrats rule nowadays? We have a standard image of autocrats that strongmen rule by excessive violence, but we now see the rise of soft autocrats recently. They have learned and mimicked the best practices of democracies to sustain their powers. They primarily handle two sources of threats, one from political elites and the other from citizens to sustain their power. And we know quite a lot about how they set up institutions to co-opt the potentially threatening elites, but we know very little about how they handle the threats from citizens from the nonviolent side beyond just sending paychecks. Media are a long neglected but critical institutions to win hearts and minds of citizens. Scholars in authoritarian studies mostly study the role of media in contentious politics. They assume that ordinary people want to subvert and mobilize against repressive rulers if some preconditions are met, and social media can help them to achieve those preconditions. Knowing that, autocrats have used various strategies to control and channeling online citizen dissent. Only until recently, scholars try to figure out um, autocrats have been loosening information control, which can also help them to tighten their grip on power. So censorship and propaganda exist prevalently in autocracies, but autocrats can do more than just stifling or fooling citizens. We don't know much about how they effectively use media to persuade the citizens. So here I find an underexplored possibility that the regimes are so popular that the public may not be motivated to subvert the leader at all. Media are the key. So this project shifts to the scholarship that investigates autocrats' proactive intervention in shaping the information environment to their advantage. While politicians in democracies try their best to mimic, to impress the public, we have less reason to say autocrats don't do similar things. And if appearing attentive to citizens' demands can win popular support, nothing really stops them from making efforts to do so. So autocrats first need to establish their brand, their media as a credible and popular brands to channel their messages. And first, they need to open the room for citizen-led journalism so that they can obtain some information they need. In addition, citizens can feel empowered when they can witness the elite's actions and call for justice. This perception of exercising the public opinion power is critical for the regime popularity. Then the rulers can respond to the public issues, if not by solving them, but just showing some commitment and displaying responsiveness. So, how do modern autocrats build popularity among the public? I argue they can use a media strategy to mimic responsiveness in democracies. Those autocrats adopt a media strategy that focuses on monitoring and responding. Monitoring requires a baseline level of freedom of expression for them to gather information. And responding can appeal to citizens who see those media channels um, speak of their minds. So this leads to two hypotheses that I'm going to test and present today. Citizens are interested in political and social issues. They reflect their attention orientation on social media. Hypothesis 2, political elites learn about public issue priorities and use official media to resonate with them. I only focus on major social media platforms in China, Weibo. I use daily trending searches as a proxy to public agendas. The time frame is 54 days with on average 100 posts per day. After excluding topics of entertainment and pop culture, I have 951 searches for analysis. And I think these trending searches can give us a good representation of what people talk about and are interested in day by day. And I use Weibo posts of the state media, People's Daily, to proxy political agenda. I collect those Weibo posts and delete irrelevant ones, leaving me 454 posts for analysis. People's Daily posts on average 10 posts per day. It has over over a million readership per day, so it's a very influential actor that the autocrats can leverage to transmit their messages. So here we can see I have labeled those collective information into 9 categories. Unsurprisingly, People's Daily report much more flattering news than what is showing on the trending searches. But surprisingly, citizens are very interested in social issues, social policies, international news, crime in court, and issues related to Hong Kong's movement. Compared to the state media. So we have some confidence to say that the public are interested in the public and serious public and social issues. And if we just eyeball this bar chart, we may think that these two distributions may be very different, and then employed a standard statistical test, Kolmogorov-Smirnov test, to see if we can reject the null hypothesis that the two distributions are the same, and we cannot reject that. This means that the general public and the state media pay attention to similar issues. And to test whether elites actually respond to the public agendas, I code this binary variable when the People's Dailies or an official source responds to the trending searches event. So this graph shows that on average, the response rate is 18.5%, and the social issues response rate is the highest, slightly more than 30%. So we know that from this preliminary evidence, citizens are attentive to political and social issues. And I showed that public opinion reflected on trending searches on Weibo has generated some political responses. So here are two takeaway points from today's presentation. I propose that autocrats have been using a monitoring and responding media strategy to develop a perception of responsive government. I challenge the conventional understandings of media environment in autocracies and show some evidence that the public in autocracies can have some freedom to discuss substantive issues on social media. They are alert to political and social issues, and the elites pander to the public. I'm looking forward to the feedback on and beyond the pre-conference. So thank you so much for listening.